Hi, welcome to my lesson 9 RJ. So today we'll be going through two questions. So going through the first question, how will you rate your performance as a coach today with reference to game 1 and Q&A? So given from poor to excellent, and after receiving feedback from my peers, what do I think? So basically, based on my performance today, I feel that I performed at a good level as the students were performing somewhat to what I wanted them to during game 1. The feedback from the players after the whole event would be that since they are still new to floorball, they found it maybe hard to implement my minimum 3 passes consecutively. As such, they opted for if I were to, they suggested that it would be better if I change it to 2 passes, allowing for it to be easier for them. Some of the good parts would be that they brought up that would be that the space provided for them was adequate, as they had enough space to run around to find open spaces to receive the pass, which was my tactical decision. In addition, they liked the rule where if they receive a pass or being open, they got a point for that, as it helped them to identify the tactical decision about positioning and moving to open space, which will be the tactical problem of attacking defense, or actually can be considered also keeping possession of the ball. Okay, so one in the end, but they also suggested adding one more rule where I could have added to would be that I would add in a man marking rule, because for now the two rules that I had will be that they had to make a minimum of 3 passes before they were able to score, and the second rule would be, as said just now, if they were to receive a pass in open space, they get a point. So one additional rule that I could have added would be that man marking should be and must be done at all times by the defenders. Yeah, so I'll go on to explaining that a bit more later. Okay, so actually I'm going to explain now. So the reason for this rule be that this would force the attackers to find a way to escape from defenders that are constantly on their tail. So this will force them to move to the open spaces so that they're actually able to receive that open pass from the teammate as best as they can. So now moving on to my Q&A session, the students were able to quickly answer to my questions with ease and understand the different reasons for the special rules that are set in place. So some things that I said that I myself think I can work on will be my delivery for the lesson plan and and I also feel that my question have been set up right. So as I said just now, the rules should be changed a bit just to make it easier for them, cause considering that they are new to floorball and have little to no experience in these sports and only understand the basics of it. So I have to keep that in mind when I am creating these lesson plans, so that it's not too difficult and not too easy at the same time, because they also want it to be a bit more challenging. So yeah, this is the first question. So the second question will be, share honestly and clearly how well you understand and apply TGFU as at today, and what exactly do you plan to prepare yourself for ESE in week 13? Okay, so answering back to the first part, for today's lesson, I wanted to work on teams of offense, where I wanted the students to be able to keep possession of the ball by constantly passing. So this main tactical decision I wanted them would be to moving to open spaces so that they could receive the pass from their teammate easily. As such, I shaped the modified game so that since there are 4 players, it will be a 2v2 and the goals will be smaller, as well as a somewhat smaller court. In addition to being able to score points by shooting to the goal, they also awarded points if the receiver of the pass was not being marked at all, which makes them inclined to move to spaces which are open to be considered free and gain that 1 additional point. So there was also the final rule of having to make a minimum of 3 passes before being able to score, which meant they had to know how to pass and where to pass, and as well as where to move so that they can get that pass, so that they can make up for that 3 minimum passes. Okay, so my Q&A session was made out of questions such as obviously the basics of who was the winner and why were they able to get more points, just starting to get them think what were the opponents doing. So like if I were to ask losers the question of why were the winners able to get more points, then they can start thinking upon what did they do during the game, so that they allowed them to, based on the special rules that I've implemented to this modified game. So I also have more specific questions if they are a bit lost, such as going back to our point system, why do you think they didn't make use of what do you think they made use to allow them to get this point advantage? Also other questions such as, besides being able to pass, what are some other things did they do so that they were able to receive and perform these successful passes? And yeah, okay, so those are example questions that I had in mind, but as you can see during my coaching video, my players did understand the idea of what the tactical problem and the tactical decisions were, and so they were able to quickly reply to my questions. This also allowed me to understand that they know what is going on, and I'll be able to then proceed on to my practice and then follow on with game 2. Okay, so now moving on to what I feel that I should be preparing myself for in ESE week 13. I understand that TGFU and the whole plan, so I want to be able to create a game one where that we are letting them to use their brains to think about why certain rules were added, so that what they do can be based so that what they can do will be allowed. Okay, sorry. So it's basically based on the rules they implement, what advantages do they have? What advantages can they make use of to allow them to win? So in certain cases, special rules also actually may not be needed, as you want to see how the players want to react to a situation. So based on the tactical problem that I'll be working on, I will decide whether I want to implement certain rules so that it'll be a bit more easier for my players to understand the tactical problem, or maybe I just also just want them to let them have a fun game where they can just play in their 2v2s or 1v1s depending on the tactical problem of that day as well. So starting from there, they can start to think about what they did and what they did wrong in order to allow me to understand as a coach, to understand their understanding of the tactical problem. If they are able to understand and answer my questions, that means that they understand everything, and I will then know that okay, I can proceed on. But if they do not know, I have to continue going on my Q&A session and try to prompt them to go towards my actual tactical problem for that day. So once they actually understand the thing is, if they do not understand my tactical problem and the tactical decisions that are supposed to be made, it will be harder for them to actually understand the practices and the drills that we'll be going through. So because if they understand like maybe passing is important, then they'll focus a lot on passing. But if they don't, they might be wondering, why are we doing passing when we can just be working on shooting instead? So something like this. Yeah, so if they're able to understand, so actually game 1 is, and the Q&A is quite important in like being leading towards the practice session, as well as the game 2. So game 2 will be allowing me for me to see whether they were able to understand the concept of this tactical decision as well as the problem, and get past the problem using this tactical decision they have learned during my practice sessions with them, during the practice drills actually. Yeah, so going forward towards lesson 13, while I'm preparing a lesson that will allow my students to play a modified game, they'll be able to get their minds working, and by changing part of the rules to create this modified game, it will allow them to understand different concepts of how the game is played, the tactical problems as well as the tactical decisions in the game for that day, and how they will be able to overcome it through doing the tactical decisions that should be made and executing it perfectly by going through practice sessions, so that in game 2 they'll be able to do well, and at the end of the day they have improved from when they started this training session. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.